Welcome to American Roots. My name is Jessica. Today we're going to talk about my family's journey in homesteading. About a year ago, we really got serious about feeling the need in our spirits to just start getting prepared for whatever the next journey is. Now, I want to start by saying my husband and I moved to Maine, where we sold everything we owned. We moved our kids back, and we started a business. And we ended up coming back about 3.5 years later to Arizona, and through a lot of trial, error, lessons, and maybe we'll go into that in another video, but we came back and I went back to school. Joe got his real estate license. Addie got her cosmetology license. I started teaching. Joe continued working for his company that he's been with for a number of years. And Addie became a hairstylist. Now, about 2 years ago, I never would have told you that we were even remotely thinking about doing anything like this. We lived with our parents, we saved money, we bought a house, we ended up establishing some roots here, and that's something that we've never had. We've never owned a property until the last 5 years. Now, kind of fast forward, here we are established, have a little bit of footing, and I've fallen in love with gardening. It started out just as a need to turn the TV off, to start planting something, to start growing our own food in some way, being responsible in some way for what we were consuming. Well, then it just started with one plant, which became two, which became, Joe said, I'll build you some raised garden beds, which then became our entire backyard and a collective agreement of gardening. It hasn't just been me. I could never have done the things in this backyard by myself. It would have taken me a lot longer to do them. Joe has been a huge part of helping my dreams come to fruition. I have a vision, I tell him that vision, and we work together to construct that. And about 2 years ago, we started to really see the need to think a little more serious about what we were doing. My parents and I, we all have kind of had the conversation of what if, what we need to do, and how we can spend time being more prepared for ourselves. More self-sustainability, and we all hold a gamut of skills. I think that God's blessed every single person with a set of skills, and when you yoke up with the right people and you do the right things for what's best for yourself, for your family, and you're morally right in the things that you do, meaning you're not out to hurt people, you're not out to make a buck on somebody, you are out to help people and to be a good human being. I think that you start to realize a different kind of relationship. And we really started to push towards wanting that community, not really finding value in some of the other things that we found value in before, like simple things like going to the movies. And so now our value's been found in gardening, our value's been found in producing our own food, and now learning about that. So we decided to get really serious about homesteading and what that meant, and we started looking around Arizona for land. That was kind of the reason why Joe got his real estate license, so that we would have the ability to look through the MLS to see what was on the property market and how we could kind of fit into any of that. Well, it's no secret that Arizona's going through issues with water. And if you just look at it, take those aside, and you just look long-term for sustainability, I don't personally feel Arizona is a place that we should be investing in for the simple sake of natural resources. For 100 years, they've worried about what they were going to do for water. And so I really just want to be very cognizant about that, be very aware of that, and think about what this land can offer if you have no electricity, if you have no running water. Are you able to survive? So that kind of being where I was coming from, I started doing a little bit of research and started learning. Of course, I started watching the people on YouTube that are doing these things. I started to see what it is that they're doing. How are they doing it? How did they make their dreams come true? And the one thing I can see that is like a common thread is that most people that are trying to get a different lifestyle from living in the city, having a 9-to-5 job, having a career, having a car payment, a mortgage, all of that, the biggest step that we can take towards that dream coming true is to become debt-free. So with that being said, that is kind of my first place of business. Now, I'm also reading, and a couple books that I'm reading right now. I'm reading You Can Farm, and this is a book by Joel Salatin. I highly recommend this book if you're thinking at all in a serious manner about wanting to homestead. I am devouring this book. I got it 2 days ago, and I can't put it down. There's so much valuable information. I have really pressed my mom to buy this book. She's ordered it so that we can be reading it simultaneously. You Can Farm by Joel Salatin. Highly recommend this book. Anything Joel Salatin that you can read. Permaculture is going to be the way that you're going to be able to sustainably farm. If you cannot get grain, if you cannot get food for your animals, how can you produce that? That was my big question. We're trying to produce for ourselves and our pets, but what if we had livestock? What if we had animals we needed to care for? How would we get through and make sure that we could feed those animals in a hard time, in a drought, in shipping issues, anything like that? That was my burning question. How could I provide for those animals? And permaculture came about, and the next thing I knew, I'm devouring anything and everything I can about permaculture. How one thing feeds the next, which all makes a full circle around in the cycle of life to feeding us. We feed the animals then feed off the grass, and it returns itself. And that's really what I like about it, is the full cycle of what we're seeing on the farm. The other book I'm reading, which is another must-read, is The Independent Farmstead. This book is really giving me a lot of information on really starting from scratch. How do you even start thinking about land? I'm in the beginning of both of these books, and I will keep you posted on how they are. I'm a huge, huge advocate of references and quality references. I think that learning about something new, you can never get your hands on too much information. So where we're starting right now is our family is going to put together a meeting. We have written an agenda of what we want to cover in this first meeting. There will be a time limit, and we're going to start discussing the very first order of business is opening prayer. The second order of business is talking about things like our goals, where we want to be, what we want, and collectively putting down on paper what each one of us has to offer as far as skills. Skill set is a huge thing to value, and I think that when you start putting those things down on paper and start really assessing what it is that you have to bring to the table, whether it be sewing, whether it be cooking, whether it be preserving, gardening, mechanic work, plumbing, even like ammunition, arms, anything like that, any kind of expertise or knowledge that anyone has is valuable. So the other thing we're going to do is be very solution-minded in this place that we're thinking about going. You can always think, and it is very helpful to think about the what-ifs and the problems that you could arise, but I think it's also very, very invaluable to be in that mindset where you can always think of a solution. What can you do to bring solution to the problem? Yes, there's going to be problems. Without a doubt, we live in an imperfect world, imperfect society. There's always going to be things that arise. But if you are in a solution mindset, you will always find an answer to a problem. And I think that being very intuitive, being very skill-minded, you'll always be able to come up with a solution to take care of yourself. So I think with that being said, that's where we're going to start on trying to figure out this crazy journey of figuring out a new lifestyle, a new way of living. I hope that you will stick with us and join us as we figure out how we are going to move and transition from city life to homestead life. So if you watched our last video, you're probably wondering why Tennessee? Well, it first started out, the company my husband worked for owned 2 plants there, and so we thought that possibly a transfer would be an idea. That way not to disrupt our income too much, keep things as regular as possible, things like health insurance, important stuff. Well, then we found out that the plants were no longer owned by the company, and so we started just looking into what Tennessee had to offer because we'd already kind of started looking at properties. Really liking them, the space, the trees, the water. There's so many different aspects. So we just started looking at different areas, trying to see if there was anything that really suited us. And that's what led us to getting feet on the ground, taking a trip out there and really seeing what it was like. We kind of geared our trip to see as much land as we could, as many small towns as we could, so that we could feel it out and then decide if that was something we wanted to pursue. We also wanted to take videos so that our family could see it, and we could start to really toss around the idea if that was somewhere we wanted to be. With so many different choices, there really isn't any one specific place that we're set on. So right now, we are simply making a list. What are the things that are important to us? What are the things that we really want to make sure we're surrounded by? And we're going to start looking for properties from there and just kind of let God lead us. We really feel that in our spirits we're being told to make a change. We are going to do that in a timely fashion. We're going to do that as we're led and prompted. And so we are going to use wisdom. We're going to ask God for wisdom and to guide us in everything that we do. So we are not trying to move hastily, and we're definitely not moving out of a place of fear. I think that that can lead you to making rash decisions and making them in the wrong manner and costing you things in a long run that if you would have just stepped back and looked at things, you could see that maybe moving in a different direction or moving slower or doing something different would have been better. We definitely have learned what it's like to just say, let's go for it, let's be risky, let's sell it all and go. And it was some of the hardest times we've lived through, for sure. So I think that we're wanting to be very cautious, make sure that we're being led, and make sure that this is what God wants us to do. And we know without a doubt, if we allow Him to lead us and guide us, that we're going to be led to the perfect place. One that's going to meet all of our needs. It's going to be filled with everything that our hearts desire. And I trust Him. I trust in that. So for right now, we are looking at Tennessee, and any other places that we choose to look, of course, we're going to make you a part of that journey. Thanks for watching. From our family to yours, God bless you.